go. Latest trends to go with the flow. Holding it in my own hand. Then I want to laugh like I lost my mind. Usually confused all the time. I can't get no satisfaction in activity. Sitting heavily like stones upon my shoulders, weighing down on me. So let's spread our wings to bigger, better things. Flying to another world, let's go. When every door was locked away, with every possibility. Okay, just another day. I'll break the wall that's in my way. I'm shooting past that limit break. I'm certain this is just a piece of cake. Just wait and see how strong I'll be. I'll reach invincibility. This is Dragon Ball Super. Just tell the gods I'm blowing them away.
In all likelihood, I will not be dead. Whis' hologram conjunctured, shrugging. I believe that the Shadow Dragons wish that I continue to exist and carry out my duty. But you are no doubt confused, and I imagine have been for some time. Here it is then. The truth. I hope you will take my word for it, in any case. Most of you know me only as the priest's assistant, but Cadmus is aware, at least, that I am something greater than any of you, and the priest knows a little more, if nothing close to the full truth. He frowned. Anyway, I will get straight to the point. You are aware of 13 universes, but in fact there are more than you could know. Your 13 exists in close proximity to each other, quite like a solar system, allowing easy travel between them, and share some similarities. Each has a Hakaishin and several Kaioshin, for instance. You are indeed fortunate that there are so many universes, or else the Eternal would have turned its attention to you much sooner. Within each of your 13 universes, there is a cycle of creation and destruction, Kaioshin and Hakaishin. This cycle is repeated on a grander scale. I am the one responsible for the creation of universes. The Eternal is their destroyer. In both cases, the destroyer is far more powerful than the creator, to prevent the creator from rebelling. And the destroyer dare not attack the creator, for fear of having nothing left to destroy. The Eternal has made an attempt on your system once before, eons ago, and was only thwarted by an action that I have yet to decide whether it was the bravest thing I have ever known anyone to do, or the most cowardly. Namek, the far future. Gamma Shenron? Raditz repeated, almost entranced by the dragon. So, any chance you can tell me what's going on? In what context do you mean that? He asked, fixing him with as close to a quizzical look as a dragon could. Explain the dragon fist that has puzzled you for so long, and how I'm connected to you? Or explain your current situation? Both? Raditz hazarded. The first I will do, Gamma sighed. But the second is not my field of expertise. I will let the other explain that. Other? I will help you find him in due time. Now, the Dragon Fist. Right. It started with a dream. Gamma nodded slowly, uncoiling somewhat as he talked. The future is not set. This is merely one possible future. Chronos Shenron's power is great indeed. He was able to create an entire possible timeline, one in which this universe was untouched by creators or destroyers after its birth, eventually causing it to fall into a gradual decline into darkness. You may have noted the low frequency of stars in the sky, for one thing. The universe is dying, if slowly. Namek's looking pretty good, minus the people, Raditz pointed out. They continue to advance their magical abilities to greater heights throughout the millennia. They use the power of the Dragon Balls to counteract the few problems they encountered, and without the need to adapt to their environment, their evolution never progressed. Due to some of these protective wishes, their planet and its inhabitants survived even after its suns flickered out and died. But die they did, finally. After millions upon millions of years, they began to dwindle out of, well, boredom and depression. Less eggs were produced every year, and some looked with growing sadness at the fading of the universe and took their own lives. No dragon could prevent such a fate, not even the other and myself, the final two eternal dragons, and the greatest the Namekian race ever produced. Eventually, there was but one Namekian left. We told him of the cataclysm of old that had also left one survivor, and how that survivor had repopulated the planet. We suggested he do the same. He only said, "Why?" And then he wished to die. "And you granted that wish?" Raditz barked. "It is what we are for." Gamma lifted his head. "And now to the part that concerns you. Many years passed. I did not count them. Eventually, the other developed his powers to the point where he could perceive and affect the time stream, and we became aware of our own semi-real existence as a created offshoot of your timeline. We also saw the terrible danger your universe was in. While we held the connection open, I was able to make contact with you." Raditz raised an eyebrow. "If you were trying to stop the Eternal, you came a couple decades early. I had the dream all in Otherworld. We knew the timing would not be accurate. Better to be early than late." Gamma paused. "I sought to give you a weapon against the Shadow Dragons, hence your technique for defeating enemies far stronger than yourself. However, apparently, son of Bardock, a warrior who has surpassed Super Saiyan, lived on Earth for most of life, has been dead, wasn't specific enough, and I accidentally contacted both of you, binding myself to both your souls." "So all this time, we've been summoning you!" Raditz smiled as revelations began to hit him one after the other. "So that's why it stayed at the same level, even when we improved, and why we couldn't both use it at the same time." "It is a shame my power was split in this way, though. The Dragon Fist you have been employing is nothing compared to my full power. I am a combat dragon, you see, the strongest Namekians have ever created, just as my partner, Omega Shenron, is their greatest wishing dragon, possessed of immense magical power." Raditz held up a hand to interrupt. "Speaking of which, how is it you two are still kicking around after your creators died?" "I told you that we are far superior to the dragons in your time. Those crude, early creations are to us as a candle is to a star." "Alright, whatever. And you say Omega's the guy to go to for the rest of the story?" "Indeed. I am no intellectual. He understands it all better than I." Raditz turned away, beginning to walk off. "Well, good for you. One question, though. Any way back to my time?" "No, none at all." Ha! The Saiyan grinned, clearly lying. Otherwise, why bother telling me all that? "Let me guess. There's this one way, but it's really dangerous and stuff. You... Speak to Omega." "Alright, be unhelpful then." Heaven's Bridge.
"You have infuriated me from the moment you entered my sight,"
Chronos Shenron declared.
"Finally eradicating you will be a great relief."
"Come try it," Goku responded, keeping his guard up. "Crap. The stuff this guy can do, even when he's just playing around. What am I going to do?" Chronos spread his arms out, the space around him growing darker, jagged lines cutting through the air and fracturing it, as if Chronos was being reflected in a broken mirror.
"Now, if you approach me, you will die. But approach you must if you want to get through the door. Unless you forget, you are working with a time limit."
Above, on the top of the tower, Alpha Shenron breathed a sigh of relief. "Those mortals were beginning to worry me. We lost a lot of people today, but I never should have doubted, not with Chronos around. Already, only one enemy remains, and if he's using this technique, this one should die most unpleasantly." "Yeah, thanks for reminding me," Goku muttered. "Well, I guess I am coming to you." He fired up his aura, burning his Super Saiyan power to the maximum. Whatever happens, he reminded himself, gotta keep moving forward.
"This technique,"
Chronos warned him,
"attacks your own personal timeline. The flaws and inconsistencies in your personality throughout your life will cause you to be pulled in different directions. You will be torn apart by it. The only being who could survive this would be one still untouched by the world's cruelty, an innocent baby or some such. And idealistic you may be, but you're not that."
"I guess we'll just have to find out." Goku tensed himself up. "Like you want, I'm coming to you. I'll use my strongest attack, so one way or the other, this ends here." He rushed at Chronos, preparing himself for anything, and upon reaching the edge of Chronos' fractured aura, he leapt. The sensation was immediate, a great tugging force, in countless directions all at once, tearing away at him. He felt small cuts begin to open as his body failed to completely resist the pull. Just keep on going!
What's happening?
Kronos wondered, realizing with some alarm that Goku was now nearing him, and still alive.
He should have been dead instantly. What's gone wrong? I won't accept some cop-out fairy tale answer like, he's too pure. No being, mortal or divine, is flawless.
Goku drew his fist back. This is it! Light erupted around his hand, accompanied by a deep roar.
No, I see it now.
Kronos realized.
He isn't flawless. That much is clear from the minor injury he has sustained. He changed as he grew like anyone. But there was always a certain untouched simplicity at his core. And while normally that wouldn't be enough to save him, right now, Ryuken! His universe is in danger. He's the last standing when his friends have all been defeated, and he staked his life on one attack. Right now, that core of his is encompassing his entire being. There's nothing in his entire being at this moment other than the will to fight.
The golden dragon produced by Goku's attack rammed head-on into Kronos, enormous teeth biting down into its shoulder and midsection, continuing its acceleration and propelling him out into empty air. He was screaming, but wasn't aware of this. He could barely perceive anything at this point.
Is this what pain feels like? I salute you, mortals. Every one of you, for living with such a burden.
The energy composing the Ryuken lost integrity and exploded violently, tearing Kronos to shreds and throwing Goku backwards off his feet. Goku pushed himself up, chest heaving. Man, I don't think I've ever faced anyone more dangerous. He probably had 100 ways to kill me instantly. The only thing that saved me was that he got unlucky in choosing which one to use. If I hadn't already met our god, I'd swear somebody up there was looking out for me. Looking wistful, he addressed the deceased Shadow Dragon. I guess I get why you're so down about our universe, and I didn't really have a response at the time. But like I said, we are here, and we have made things better, natural or not. The Dragon Balls have always been a force for good before now, and all that evil stuff you were talking about, we've beaten it. Just like we'll beat this. Things will always look bleak if you only look for the dark in everything. He faced the door. Who knows how much time's left? No time to wait for Pan, Raditz, or the others. They'll be back when they're back. I gotta do what I can on my own until they get here. He took a nervous step through the doorway, his surroundings fading to somewhere outdoors, the top of the tower. The Kachin surface was cold beneath his feet, not helped by the howling wind. Hey, where's that Shadow Dragon anyway? She should be right... A clawed hand grabbed him by the neck, and he was lifted off his feet faster than he could follow, before immediately being slammed into the floor, vision blurring from the jarring impact. Alpha's haunting red eyes glared down at his. What does it take? She spat. Goku swung a punch up at her, but before it connected, she hurled him away toward the edge of the tower, straightening up and adjusting her jacket. Does the afterlife just hate you and refuse you entry, or what? Wish that was the case, Goku muttered, getting to his feet and assuming a fighting stance. Man, you sound mad. You want me to apologize for winning so much, or what? You're right, I do. Alpha paused, taking a deep breath and smiling. I apologize. Genuinely. I let myself get carried away. I don't resent you at all. She chuckled. I mean, I'll still kill you since you insist on fighting. But please, rest assured, I feel nothing but respect for any of you. Goku frowned. Okay, you're confusing me already. Usually it takes my enemies a few minutes to manage that. I'll elaborate, but do you mind if we get on with this as I do so? I've always been a multitasker. Without waiting for a reply, she flinched forwards, and the next instant was standing before him, a lazy punch hurling him into the air. My philosophy is simple. Goku managed to halt himself, flying back down towards the tower and aiming a ki blast at her feet to distract her, before darting around behind her, rebounding off the ground and throwing a spinning kick. His leg hit nothing but air, however, and a sharp impact to the stomach floored him again. I believe that we are all created for a purpose, Alpha explained. There are, of course, the creators and destroyers of worlds, or of universes. Simple enough. Then myself and the other Shadow Dragons. We are the Eternal's creatures, and our purpose is to enact its supreme will. As, you'll notice, she added as she sidestepped an energy beam. I am doing now. You, on the other hand, she lunged forwards, throwing a kick that launched him clean off the tower. You mortals are an interesting case. You exist for no other purpose than to continue to exist, to procreate, to increase your numbers and your quality of life. Thus, understand that I do not hate you. I find you inspiring. You are carrying out this purpose magnificently, fighting so long and so hard merely for the right to fight again in the future. It's heartwarming, really. Goku groaned as the pain from the slated blow slowly receded. What to do? Well, this worked last time. Ryuken! He summoned the attack again, charging with it back towards Alpha, who swung her leg up and kicked the Ryuken up and away from her, but the impact sent her stumbling back a couple of steps. Goku wasted no time, following up with his other magnified attack. Times 10 Kamehameha! The dual-colored beam emerged from his outstretched hands and flew arrows straight at Alpha, who, not expecting another powerful attack in such rapid succession, had used both hands to catch it and force it to a halt, grinning and sweating slightly. You've grown a lot stronger since you first arrived at this tower, but I hope you can see that there's still a vast difference between our powers. Goku nodded. That's cause you've got Divine Ki, right? Well done, Alpha confirmed. Hardly seems fair. On the contrary, I earned every bit of my power. She strolled towards him. You Saiyans, from what I've seen, have a notable ability to improve rapidly and increase your power. As it happens, so do we. A Shenron-type Shadow Dragon needs no elaborate ritual or special birthright to achieve Divine Ki. However, it is very rare for one to emerge with the talent and dedication to do so. I, needless to say, am one of those. Goku shrugged. Still not great for my chances. And that brings us to the other, even simpler part of my philosophy. She pointed straight at him. Shit happens. Deal with it. So basically, life's not fair. Yeah, heard that one before. Goku darted in for a quick jab. Your friend Kronos was pretty big on that stuff. Alpha didn't bother to defend, taking the punch in a follow-up without reacting. She began to advance, continuing to take his blows unflinchingly, completely unharmed. He's right, you know. This world is cruel. You know how I rose to such power? Enlighten me! Goku continued his rapid stream of attacks, still to no avail, even though Alpha was allowing him to land every one. There is a place called the Pit. Some of us believe it is in a lifeless universe the Eternal has no other use for. Others, that it exists within the Eternal itself. I do not care. She looked slightly upwards, remembering. We Shadow Dragons are periodically spawned by the thousands and dumped into it. It is millions of miles from top to bottom. The few who emerge into the light become full-fledged heralds for the Eternal. That is where I met Kronos. The Pit. Many years ago. Kronos clambered over an outcrop of rocky ground, wiping his mouth after his bloody meal. Shadow Dragons did not get hungry often, but eventually they did. And down here there was no source of food but each other. Yet another reason to endlessly fight amongst themselves. The eternal thunderstorm rumbled in the unseen sky far above him, the only indication this far down that the outside world existed at all. Cresting the hill, he was greeted with a sight that would have perhaps still surprised him a few years ago. A small girl in a torn, blood-stained green cloak sat huddled atop a mound of dead shadow dragons. Her eyes, twin crimson orbs, illuminated the surrounding darkness. Kronos continued his approach, fearlessly walking straight up to her and crouched down to her level.
You are incredibly strong, especially for your age, but you're not very good at hiding your power. There are bigger fish in the sea, and if they catch wind of you, they'll flock to devour you.
She gave him an unfeeling glare. I am hiding my power, she answered in a monotone voice.
I don't think she's lying.
Kronos realized.
Which means, even this is but a fraction of her true strength? This young? Even for this hell we live in, what horrors must she have lived through?
He quickly decided this one was worth his attention.
Well, little one, my name is Kronos. And you?
Had a name, she replied, still expressionless. Forgot. On purpose. Didn't like it.
I see.
Kronos smiled slightly.
Well, you can't go without a name now, can you? I have to call you something. What is it you want?
To be stronger, she said, now with feeling. The strongest. This world is cruel, and the weak die. She looked into his eyes. Don't want to die.
The strongest, eh?
Kronos nodded.
Then how about Alpha? There's a name to match your ambition.
She shrugged. Don't care what you call me. She paused. You're going to follow me around?
You're perceptive, I see.
You'll probably die. That happens around me.
I might.
She stood up, now only just level with his crouching head height, even on higher ground as she was. What do you want?
To leave this place. To find out who put us here and why.
He noticed her puzzled frown.
That's never occurred to you, has it? Leaving. There's a problem, of course. There are gangs near the surface, armies even. They prefer ruling this dismal place to the uncertainty above, and don't want anyone leaving.
Alpha's face had lit up, and Kronos nodded.
Yes, it does sound like a challenge, does it not?
Are they strong?
Very.
We'll need to get better then.
Undoubtedly.
Kronos stood, standing back slightly.
But I have had more than my fill of this place. I've been near the surface on scouting trips a couple of times. You know, there's light up there sometimes. Light just pouring down from the sky. Would you like to see that?
Wide-eyed, Alpha nodded. Deep space, the present. And he has made such attempts to reduce the life energy throughout the 13 universes to this day. Wisterion was saying, now finishing the story of Janemba, the Fallen One. Horrible, the hunter said quietly. To think, Cadmus muttered. After all these years, we thought him merely mad. I cannot believe there was so much we did not know for so long. And now, on to the final part. What you must do. Wisterion's hologram stood up straighter. You must break the cycle. Destroy Alpha Shenron. Your combined power should be sufficient to defeat even her, before she gathers enough negative energy to summon the Eternal. If the Eternal is able to approach the 7th universe and begin devouring it, it will be lost. A being like that cannot be defeated by force, but its minions can. If you are victorious, then you must ensure that Dragon Balls are never used again, in any universe, no matter the cause. There's no way of knowing how much buildup there has already been. Even one wish could tip the balance and open the path for the Eternal's return. At this point, he sighed, seeming to grow uncertain again, a pleading look entering his eyes. Lastly, I hope you will understand that this is merely a larger scale version of the cycle that you and the Kaioshin also perform. Continuous creation and destruction may maintain balance. But think of the fear, the shock you feel at the realization that all that you know is under threat, and know that you inflict the same on your own victims. There is nothing sacred about the balance. Break the eternal cycle, for sure. But I dare now to hope that you might also learn to break your own. He glanced off to the side, and vanished, the message ending. Each immersed in their own thoughts, the gods flew on in silence for a while after this, broken only by the sorcerer informing them that someone was now fighting Alpha, and that with this interference to her negative energy generation, they might make it in time after all. Beerus in particular had much to think on. Now that I think about it, Whis always acted very supportive, but since letting him go undercover as my assistant, I've been sleeping more and destroying very few planets, most of them uninhabited. All along, he never wanted me to, but he knew I wouldn't change how I lived on his words alone. It almost feels like I never truly knew him at all. Namek, the far future. Raditz made his way on foot this time, mainly for a change of pace. Gamma had pointed him in Omega's general direction. However, Omega was not the next eternal dragon he encountered. Lying draped across the path, with a posture of what could only be described as utter laziness, was an entirely less impressive dragon.
Huh?
His eyes gradually rolled open, focusing on the approaching Saiyan.
Oh, it's you. Hello.
Raditz looked at the dark-hued winged dragon up and down. You're Kokuin. They mentioned you, briefly.
Course.
Kokuin muttered.
That's all I ever am, a footnote. You're off to see Omega, right?
Yeah, Gamma was helpful up to a point, then he clammed up. Raditz skirted around Kokuin, continuing his journey. How'd you get here, anyway?
I can go wherever I like, pretty much.
Kokuin replied, flipping upright and following the wandering Saiyan, evidently having nothing better to do.
See, well, there's 3 kinds of dragons, see. Purunga types are the most powerful to start with, but they're all very similar, not much variation between them, and that power makes them harder to summon. Most of us are Shenron type. They have the most adaptability, and a decent bit of power, but not so much that it takes too much negative energy to summon them.
He did a half-spin, facing Raditz again.
And then there's me. I'm one of a kind. Weak as all hell, as a result of which using me as a scout, and to fully prep the Dragon Balls for the others' arrival, doesn't waste any of their precious negative energy. There could theoretically have been a whole range of Kokuen-type Shadow Dragons, but the Eternal only needs one of me.
I guess we're lucky the others weren't Purungas then, Raditz mused. And the Nameks in this future ended up making Shenron types too?
Yeah, that adaptability again, made it easy to experiment. So you got these two. But yeah, after we started on this universe, I found this little dead end of a timeline coming off it, and came to hang out with them. But they're pretty dull.
Raditz paused. We're going to need a new occupation. This cycle is going to end.
You don't seriously think you can do that?
Sure I do. My family's insane, and they've made me an optimist against my better judgment. Now leave me alone, will you?
Fine, fine.
Kokuen snorted, turning away.
Nothing to do in this bloody timeline anyway.
He slunk off, soon disappearing from view. Whatever. Raditz continued on his way, soon spotting another beacon of light on the horizon, and correcting his course to head for it. Let's just hope Omega Shenron is more helpful. I know Gamma wouldn't have bothered telling me all that if there wasn't a way of getting back. Man, I'm starting to get tired of possible futures and mini-universes and all these damn places I'm getting sent to. Shadow Dragon's Tower. Goku fell back, exhausted from his prolonged, futile assault. I feel like I'm fighting a wall made of fists, he muttered. I aim to excel in all things, Alpha replied. Now I think it's been your turn for quite long enough. Be gone from my sight, Saiyan. She clenched her fists, and a massive ki broke like a tsunami over Goku. He blacked out instantly, hurled off the tower and sent flying at hypersonic speeds, eventually descending to Earth in a trail of blazing light, a distant shooting star. If you were all your universe could muster up, Alpha said sternly, turning away and heading back towards her throne-like seat. It didn't deserve to survive. You only live twice. Once when you were born, and once when you look death in the face. Ian Fleming. Goku! Goku! What? Goku sat up, head ringing, vision swimming into focus. Baby crouched next to him, breathing a relieved sigh. Ah, you're awake. That was quick. What happened to you? Alpha Shenron. Goku rubbed one particularly persistent bruise. Only one Shadow Dragon left, but I don't know how we're going to beat her. What are you doing here? I was monitoring the energy around the Shadow Dragon's tower, and discovered something I thought the rest of you should know. But yours was the only key I sensed still fighting. Then you got blasted down here. Yeah. What was it you found out? Baby gave a hesitant look. We might have more time than we thought. Or less. Basically, Alpha produces negative energy to open a breach for the Eternal, if you remember. Sure, yeah. Well, we did some scans at various points in time, and it turns out she produces less when she's fighting. The stronger the opponent, the more effort it takes to fight them, the less energy produced. So basically, it's even more important to keep at it than we thought. Goku had a sudden moment of clarity. If you know it depends on how strong the opponent is, you must have had someone to compare me with, right? Baby nodded. Not a clue who, but from the apocalyptic scale of their battle, and the fact that almost no negative energy was produced during it, they must have been incredibly powerful. I wonder who? Goku shook his head. It doesn't matter. I guess I gotta get back up there. He rose uneasily to his feet. Probably just get killed in a couple of seconds, though. Is it really that desperate a situation? Well, she's definitely got Divine Ki, but the only opponent like that I have to compare her with is Beerus, and I couldn't say who's stronger. He shrugged. Their powers are so vastly beyond my comprehension, I really have no idea how they measure up. And I guess we're all going to die anyway. There might be nothing else for it, Baby mumbled. What is it? You have a plan? Maybe. It would increase your power significantly, but... well, when I describe it to you, you'll understand why I never suggested this before. Goku turned to face Baby, looking down at the self-made cyborg. Go on. I have, over the course of the last few years, modified my programming and capabilities. The former Dr. Mew began. I no longer desire control over mindless slaves. I have, however, begun to feel... out of place. Wherever I go, I am extraneous, in a way. I wish to be a part of something, and as much as I morally oppose it now, I acknowledge that the only time I have ever felt that sense of belonging was when I fully possessed someone. I know this is very important to you and all, but we're on a schedule and all, so Could you get to the point, please? Baby rolled his eyes. I'm getting there. I altered my programming so that I no longer have the ability to forcefully control minds. Instead, I can now fully merge with someone. Well, it was planned to be permanent, but in this case I can make it temporary. Let me guess. That's your idea? Indeed. It would be similar, physically, to the full possession I used on Broly during our battle, but very different mentally. It would be primarily your body to control, but I would be able to aid and assist you, add my concentration, skills, and intellect to yours. In addition, as with Broly, this would provide you with a substantial power increase. Goku considered all this. I don't doubt that he's telling the truth, for one thing. You seemed pretty hesitant earlier, even though it isn't permanent. It could be seen as intrusive to have someone inside your head in such a manner. I know that many people would turn down a suggestion such as this outright. Baby turned away. It is a desperate measure, and I understand if you refuse. It almost certainly will not be enough to surpass such a foe as this dragon, in any case. No, I'll do it, Goku said with sudden force. If there's any remote chance of victory and we don't take it, we're letting everyone down. He brightened up. Well, no time to waste, huh? Baby nodded. Quite. Normally this kind of operation would require more deliberation and mental preparation. But, let's go. Goku agreed, cutting him off. Very well. Baby frowned for a moment, and his body began to liquefy, flowing like a quicksilver ribbon into a wide arc and further dissolving into a silvery mist, surrounding Goku before being absorbed into his skin and vanishing inside him. Huh. Goku blinked. I don't feel any... Whoa! Spacious in here, Baby joked. Goku groaned. Ha ha. Alright, I'm going to run a diagnostic. Transform, if you would. Goku nodded, turning Super Saiyan. It felt somewhat different, though. A quick check of his reflection in a nearby pool of water, formed as the impact crater he'd made had cooled, revealed that his transformed state had taken on a new appearance. His hair, rather than yellow, was silver, and small red lines extended up from his eyebrows to his hairline, with the third running down from his mouth to his chin. Kinda weird, but whatever. I don't think any of this is there in my normal form, so he must have added some kind of plug-in to my Super Saiyan transformation. I'm now managing your power output to increase its efficiency, Baby informed him. This is taking into account Super Saiyan, Kaioken, everything. You won't have to worry about specifically using the latter to magnify your attacks. I'm squeezing the maximum possible amount of power out of your capabilities, while also micromanaging your ki flow down to the subatomic level. Your attacks will be both stronger and less energy consuming now. This is on top of the power boost you already received due to the fusion. Awesome! Goku felt his new power rise to the surface. Hey, if I'm sensing right, I'm about as strong as Pan was. That's pretty impressive. I believe it is time to rejoin the fight. Think you're right. Blasting the crater beneath them even deeper into the ground, Goku took off, angling himself straight for the Shadow Dragon's tower. The energy signature around the tower seems different to before, Baby noted. I see. Goku considered this. Come to it, we're pretty close now and nothing's stopping us. I guess what you're detecting is that she lowered the barrier that was keeping us from just skipping to the top. She sensed your approach, and is challenging you to face her directly. Right. Goku completed his steady ascent, touching down on the edge of the tower. Alpha stood waiting for him a couple of meters away. You're alive, she said, sounding uninterested. I didn't expect that. You even managed to improve your power substantially. But again, it's a drop in the ocean compared to the gulf between you and I. Let's find out. Goku retorted as he leapt to the attack. False bravado, of course, as he knew full well that she was right. The integration of the Saiyan's tactical mind and the Tuffle's calculating genius was already showing, however. When Goku's fist swung up, Alpha went to brush it aside casually, but the moment it made contact with her forearm, a burst of energy knocked her arm back out of its guarding position. She was so taken aback by this that Goku had a moment to land another punch, this one to her upper body, a second explosion driving her back a couple of steps. Nice work, Baby. Goku mentally congratulated his new partner. Only a few minutes and you've already come up with a new technique. What you were saying about energy efficiency really paid off. I never thought I'd be able to strike every blow with the force of a full Kamehameha. I aim to please, Baby responded. Alpha shook her head at her ruined shirt, adjusting her jacket to compensate. The attacks hadn't caused her any real injury. Well, I suppose there are two solutions. I could put more effort into blocking, or just dodge. And since I'm trying to save on energy, she leaned to the side, avoiding his next punch and stepping back out of reach of a follow-up spin kick. A surprise attack only works once, you know. She made a quick swipe, grabbing his head in one hand and slamming him into the ground face first. Hence why it's called a surprise. Not having a clever comeback, Goku instead mumbled something unintelligible while tensing his body up, before springing back up at Alpha, resuming his attacks, which seemed to come faster and more frequently than before. I see, Alpha commented, dodging and weaving. You're allowing yourself to throw more attacks by saving on energy and only loading a blast into some of them. Unfortunately for you, I've observed this technique for long enough, and there is a faint energy signature on the energized punches. I can tell which is which. I only have to dodge about half of them. She retreated slowly, blocking and dodging his attacks according to whether they were charged with energy or not. Odd. I thought he'd stop trying this once I'd seen through it. She rolled her eyes. Cut it out! A lightning-quick uppercut hurled Goku away again. He skidded to a halt on the edge of the tower, catching his breath. Yeah, that was probably enough. Enough for what? You didn't land a single hit on me! Alpha snapped before an energy signature, even fainter than before, drifted into the edge of her awareness. You didn't. The delay Kamehamehas planted on her with every blocked, seemingly non-charged hit, detonated simultaneously, knocking her flat on her back. Combining the new charged punch technique, Kamehameha Ken, maybe? Goku wondered. With his delay Kamehameha had been another on-the-spot stroke of genius of babies. Goku wasted no time in following up, jumping at Alpha with the descending heel kick aimed at the back of her head. She rolled, however, throwing herself away across the floor in a desperate last-second dodge. As she slid, Goku sent a volley of energy beams to pursue her, alternating his firing between hands to allow greater charge time with no loss of rate of fire. Damn! He doesn't let up! Alpha caught sight of the incoming barrage, flipping to her feet and kicking off the tower, vanishing from Goku's sight. The next thing he knew, an impact from behind had sent him spinning through the air, and his beams were arcing off into the empty sky, already dissipating. Man, he thought groggily. When I catch her off guard, it's easy to forget how fast she is normally. Alpha settled to the ground, rolling her shoulders. Lesson learned then. Even though it requires more movement than blocking, I shall dodge every one of your attacks. Any more ideas? Goku asked Baby. One, but that'd only be a point if we had an attack actually capable of harming her to follow up. Maybe a problem then. Namek, the far future. Raditz stared up at Omega Shenron. Wow, you're bigger than any eternal dragon I've seen so far, for one thing. Other than this, and its coloration, red with piercing, all-blue eyes, Omega looked very similar to the original Shenron, and Gamma. So, Gamma said you might be more...
I know what you desire to learn, and what has transpired. I have seen your mind, say it.
Omega rumbled. Well, I guess you are supposed to have a lot of magic power, so that makes sense. Raditz shrugged. So, we've been summoning Gamma's power, only not all of it. Any way we can use all of it? Or at least my brother can, since he's probably fighting right now? Then? Time travel hurts to think about.
Your presence here has caused our timelines to flow simultaneously.
Omega informed him.
The amount of time that passes here is the same as the amount that passes in your home timeline.
It paused.
Currently, your brother is fighting Alpha Shenron. He is holding her off, but will not last long.
Oh! Then, like I said, is there any way he can use Gamma's full power? That'd be helpful, I imagine.
Indeed there is. Gamma's full power was not available to the two of you because, as he told you, when he performed what we call the Dragon Soul Ritual, his projections split between the two of you. Now that you are physically here, before me, I can purge that part of him from you and allow him to fully join with the other.
So I'll never be able to use the Dragon Fist again. Whatever. Goku needs it more than I do right now. Do it! Raditz urged. Quickly! Omega's eyes flashed for a moment, and Raditz felt something leave him he'd never quite realized he had.
It has been done. Gamma is now gone from this timeline, completely merged with your brother. Interesting. It almost feels like I'm granting wishes again. Those were better days.
It definitely worked? Omega nodded in reply, and Raditz sighed with himself. I have to wonder though, why didn't Gamma tell me you could do this? He must care at least a little, or he wouldn't have tried helping us in the first place.
Gamma Shenron has a twisted sense of humor.
Omega said with a slight hint of embarrassment beneath the regal tones.
He knew your curiosity at not knowing the complete truth would lead you to me just as soon as telling you directly.
So he was screwing with me, Raditz muttered. Good to know. Shadow Dragon's Tower. Goku racked his brain for a solution. Gotta be something. Gotta be. Even the Ryuken barely faced her before. Indeed, I'm not sure we're capable of seriously harming her, even with that attack. Baby agreed. A third voice unexpectedly chimed in. Try it again. You will find a significant improvement from the last time. Who are... I do not have the time or inclination to tell you everything. Luckily, as the Dragon Soul ritual is now complete, I have no need to. Prepare for information dump. Information... Oh. Goku's question came to a halt as the knowledge of the origin of his technique, and of the possible future world, seamlessly entered his brain. Getting kinda crowded in here, Baby muttered. Glad I'm not here forever. Anyway, Goku focused the others' attention back on the battle at hand. Baby, your plan for landing a hit better work. And Gamma? I hope you're as powerful as you say. He inhaled, looking up at Alpha. Let's do it! He took a step back to gain run-up distance, and charged at Alpha, who was still unaware that anything had changed. Ah, he finally moves, she joked. I was starting to wonder if you had a stroke. Goku lunged, throwing another energy charge punch at her face, and she dodged neatly. I'm not stupid enough to fall for... At this point, the energy detonated. But it wasn't destructive. The attack Baby had layered onto Goku's physical blow was not a Kamehameha, but a solar flare. Alpha stumbled away, blinded, and Goku prepared to summon Gamma Shenron. This time was, indeed, different. Ryu! A deep yellow flame burst to life around his right forearm, and as he took another bounding step towards Alpha, drawing his fist back to strike, rays of burning light pierced the clouds above him to focus on him, the fire and the incoming light merging to form the roaring golden dragon. Ken! Alpha grunted, eyes still screwed shut and stinging, as she heard him call the attack name, recognizing it from before. Ugh. At least his attack is just another one of his little insect stings, even if it hits... What? She panicked as her ki sense informed her, too late, of her miscalculation, crossing her arms to block it at the last second. It's different this time! Fully divine ki? How? She had no more time to think, the incarnation of Gamma Shenron snatching her up in its jaws and carrying her off into the sky, biting down on her with immeasurable force. She pushed back, struggling to keep from being crushed, yelling in surprised anger. Goku lowered his arm, smiling to himself. Hey, didn't even use up any of my energy this time, he realized. No, but it did use mine, Gamma informed him. It will be some time before I can take physical form again, and hence before you can use this technique again. Alright, thanks for the heads up. Let's just hope once was enough to put her down. However, mere seconds after the distant explosion that signified the technique's completion, a not quite as distant thunderclap followed it, the sound of someone breaking the sound barrier with contemptuous ease, and a wave of forcefully propelled air washed past him, the slipstream of the figure that now touched down with the thump behind him. A hand gripped each of his arms, pulling them backwards almost to breaking point. You know, that dragon thing might actually be stronger than me, Alpha said testily. But as you've so ably proved throughout our fight, a single attack from someone stronger than you isn't necessarily lethal. Goku glanced back over his shoulder. Yeah, she looks a mess, but she's only really hurt a little. Well, at least I finally did some damage. Anyway, gotta get out of this before she breaks something. He jumped up and backwards, kicking out at her face. She let go, ducking under his kick and reaching up and pulling him to the ground, before aiming a fist at his head. Evidently, she was out of witty remarks, as all she said was, DIE! As it raced down towards him with bone-shattering force. May? A familiar voice intoned. Alpha froze, eyes flicking over to the side. Who? Ha! Alpha had to leap away from Goku to dodge the blast, backflipping as she crested the arc of her jump and landing smoothly. Goku sat up, eyes widening in relief. Pan! His newly reappeared granddaughter nodded, running over and helping him up. You okay? Been better, been worse. He shrugged. I remember. Chrono said since Raditz took most of his attack, he only got sent a few minutes forwards. Right, that must have been it. Everything flashed for a second, and then you guys were all gone. I still had my attack half charged, so I ran up here with it. And you saw the rest. But, hey, she added, you look weird. You're as strong as I am now. What did you do? Tell you later. We gotta keep fighting Alpha. If she's putting effort into stuff, it stalls the Eternal Coming. Alpha eyed up the pair. Brilliant. Now there are two, of equal power. Then again, their combined power is still inconsequential to me. And I hope, that I have finally exhausted his bag of tricks. I may be able to dispose of them both without too much difficulty. She chuckled. This is weird. I'm really starting to get tired of these people, but at the same time, I'm highly entertained by them. and it's fascinating the lengths they go to. Are you ready? Goku asked. Yeah. Pan focused her power, preparing to attack. Alpha flexed her arms. I know I am. The three warriors ran at each other, meeting in the center of the roof in an explosive clash of energy. Inferno Gauntlet. Hephaestus Shenron looked up to see a small group approaching the doorway he stood guard of. Goten, Vegeta Jr., Oob, Break, and 18. They neared him in the door, the silence growing more awkward as time went on. He allowed Oob to pass without comment, then stuck out his good arm to block Goten and Vegeta's passage. The merged warrior you formed earlier. Can you create him again? Yeah, Goten replied. We didn't get our full half hour of fusion last time, which makes recharging easier. Hephaestus nodded and lowered his arm, letting them pass through. He raised it again, however, when Break and 18 approached. Neither of you has demonstrated the potential even for demigod ki. So? Break asked loudly. I have been defeated, and I will not fight against your side anymore, Hephaestus said solemnly. However, you are her friends. With only mortal ki, Alpha Shenron will kill you in an instant. He paused. I owe her a debt. I am repaying it now. 18 put a hand on Break's shoulder. I'd better go then. For one thing, somebody needs to tell people what's going on. For another, unlike me, you've got a chance of powering up like that, right? I guess so. I mean, in theory. Break answered hesitantly. She turned back to Hephaestus. So if I can achieve that level while fighting you, you'll let me through? I am not on your side. I will not help you, he said firmly. I will merely prevent you from passing at your current level. If while doing so you happen to become strong enough, then so be it. Man, you take a long time to say yes, Break complained. She pounded her fists together. Let's do it. Another clash, and the three fighters landed opposite each other. A second later, Goku and Pan swayed and fell to their knees as Alpha stood up straight. The Saiyans rushed in again as soon as they'd caught their breath, Pan opening up with a pair of energy beams. Alpha strengthened her aura to her front, deflecting them away, her head flicking around as Goku appeared beside her, swinging a knee strike. She jumped over it, turning away and shielding her eyes as another burst of solar energy was emitted, but recovering fast enough to catch Pan's flying kick and throw her back where she'd come from. Ryuken! Alpha leapt away as Goku's most powerful technique thundered by, avoiding it this time. He cursed, turning to track her too slowly, and being hit with a jarring blow to the head. Pan was already behind Alpha as she struck, firing a full-strength Kamehameha, but Alpha spun to intercept it, launching her own energy wave one-handed and overwhelming it, the resulting shockwave throwing Pan to the floor next to her grandfather. Man, Goku groaned, rubbing his aching head. We've been at this for a while, and getting nowhere fast. Well, Pan was first up, drawing on her remaining energy reserves. I guess let's just keep stupidly throwing ourselves at the problem until one of us thinks of an actual plan. Sounds good. The climactic battle is upon us. Alpha Shenron, Herald of the Eternal, and Goku, the Saiyan from Earth. Despite his best efforts, Goku doesn't stand a chance against the fully divine power of Alpha Shenron. Even when merged with Baby, to become even stronger, there's not much that Goku can do. However, in the far-off future Namek, Raditz has conversed with Omega Shenron, Namek's most powerful wish-granting dragon ever created. And through a ritual called the Dragon Soul Ritual, Raditz has fully relinquished his control over the Dragon Punch ability, and has granted it to Goku. Now, Goku is able to summon Gamma Shenron, Namek's most powerful combat dragon, at will to perform an even more powerful version of the Dragon Punch, one on a fully divine level. However, despite this advantage, it's still not enough to stack up against Alpha. During the fight, Pan has rejoined after coming back from Chronos Shenron's devastating attack, and is now taking on Alpha alongside her grandfather. Will they be able to keep Alpha occupied long enough to prevent the Eternal's arrival, and allow the Gods of Destruction heading to Universe 7 to arrive? Or will the Eternal break through, and lead to the destruction of all 12 universes? Find out next time on Even Further Beyond.